Yep, we're live. All right. Here we go. We got a few in here. I'm gonna go ahead and show everybody. We got basically the whole Rotoballer crew here. It's an important week. It's the last big week of the year, I feel like. Let's let everybody come in here. We got a bunch of retweets popping. Retweet this if you're listening.
What if you're here? I'm gonna retweet it too.
Yeah, retweet it that too. Yeah. Retweet that too. There we go. Boom. All right. Let's get right down to it. It's 9:05. Welcome into the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast, brought to you by Rotoballer.com. Always, I'm Andrew Putters. Joe Nicely here is with me, along with Byron, the Model Maniac, Josh Bennett, the Jish Swish, and TL Sports, Spencer Aguiar, the West Coast legend. I don't even know how to start this show tonight. I mean, we're not going to talk about the Scottish Open, right? We're not going to talk about the Barbasol, other than Trey Millenex, the SEC boy, winning the tournament. Yeah, I'm fired up. Open Championship, real important here. Joe, I'll start with you. Sell us on Rotoballer.com for next year. Go ahead and sell us on that. Even though we don't know what the PGA schedule is going to be because they're going to change it, go ahead and sell us on Rotoballer.com for next year.
Yeah, man. The crew's all here. Any of you that follow these guys on Twitter know the type of work they put in. Byron, Spencer, Josh, Rob G also does great work. We were hoping he could be with us tonight. Congrats to Rob on the new baby on the way. But yeah, over at Rotoballer.com, we do our best to kind of move with the golf landscape. We'll be bringing in some live content for the next live event. So there's a little news drop for you guys, but you can check out all the amazing work over there for an unbelievable price. Use our promo code TURN, get a discount. We'll take you through the Tour Championship on that subscription, and then we'll get things firing up for the new season as soon as it starts. So hope you'll check it out. Use all the tools over there. We feel like it's the best deal in fantasy golf.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go straight to Josh with this one. You're kind of a golf nerd. I would call that. Is that right? A good term. It's more than just the DFS, the gambling. It's more of a golf nerdy type like me.
Yeah.
What was there a less enjoyable tournament than the Scottish Open?
I didn't. I'll tell you what. I didn't watch a second of it. And you know what? I think people watched it they thought it was going to be important for this week to see how people played on like a links type of course. And I just don't think that it was very important at all, because maybe the guys are out there learning about things, but it's fine. I mean, people JT shot like 10 over, but that means nothing for this week. So no, I didn't watch it. I don't care about it. I actually didn't watch any golf last weekend. Really don't really care.
Me neither. Me neither. We got a humble. There's something going on with that hat over there, up in Middle America. I feel a little humble brag coming here. Word to your mother. How you doing, Byron? What's popping from the Scottish Open with you? Anything?
I watched a lot of Scottish Open. I don't know what you guys are on about, Joe, but in the Lindecker household, we love golf. So I was falling asleep to some Cam Smith golf at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Love to, can't often do that too often. And had some good bets going through. Had a little showdown, decent showing, which was nice. That was always a good start because the beginning of the DFS world did not look good at all. But I do know what we can take away from the Scottish, Josh, is that I think we can expect chaos again this week. And that's what the Scottish showed us and Joe and I spoke about this last week, and I should have listened to him and just not played a single guy at the top, and it would have paid out pretty nicely. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting time going into the Open with a few more studs into the mix, and hopefully the wind blows so we can take advantage of it.
Yeah. So, and I've discussed that exact thing with Spencer in the past. Spencer, we define golf tournaments with what we know, and that's history, right? We understand how people play under normal conditions. We might prepare for a golf tournament under one side of conditions, and the golf tournament shows up completely different, such as like the Wells Fargo this year, completely different situation. How much in yours? This is going to be kind of a complicated question. I actually had this written down to ask later, but we'll go ahead and ask it since we're talking about it. How much of your research is going to have weather involved?
For me, it's going to be something that I think link style golf is completely different than anywhere else. Like anytime you get coastal golf in general, you get these wind gusts that come into play. And that's something that you're going to have to pay attention to. And I'm not a person that's like overly looking at weather from a general standpoint of it. But, you know, my biggest piece of advice to everybody would be just to be cognizant of what's going on with the weather, because in a link style golf course or a European style golf course, people can get blown off the course. And if somebody's on the wrong end of the weather draw, I do think you can get an advantage, whether that be from betting or from a DFS perspective with it. So I'm never going to be a person that's going to overly bake it into my model, because I think like once everybody knows that one side of the draw is bad, all the ownership is going to go in the other way with it. And you can always get different and unique with the constructions that you put together. But it's something that you're going to have to be aware of. You can't just blindly do it this week.
I like it. I like it a lot. And we'll talk about those course conditions here in just a moment. Let's just get right into the 150th playing of the Open Championship. This course needs no introduction, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, 150th playing of this tournament. The tournament was established in 1860. There's been a total of 3 times it has not played. And when I say 3 times, I don't mean 3 years. Obviously, 2020 due to COVID, which actually, strangely, okay, I thought for some reason they counted it. And then back World War I, it didn't play. World War II, it didn't play. So, excuse me, a 4th time. There's another time undocumented way up in the 1870s that they didn't play, and it doesn't tell why. I don't know. 1871 it says. But it's played on the old course at St. Andrews, which is filled into the rotation now. It's roughly played there about every 6 years. And but I'll just say a little bit about St. Andrews. It's probably the most well-known golf course for British Opens that we see. I feel like it's the most memorable for me. And I'm going to get right into this. Is one guy's wheelhouse on this podcast. Just swish, fire away, St. Andrews, old course. What do we going to see from a what kind of golf course is it, number one? And what can we see the players taking advantage of on this course?
Well, it's kind of interesting. So if you look at it in the past, it was a much shorter course. They found yardage in the last couple of years. So it's like 7,300 yards now, but it is what everybody knows it to be. The fairways are super wide. They're like impossible. Like the first tee is like 100 yards wide. So it's impossible to miss. A lot of the fairways are hard to miss. The greens are big. Those are basically hard to miss. What comes into play here is whether you're getting lucky basically off the tee, because the fairways are wide, but they're undulating. You can get weird rolls that will roll into bunkers. You can get weird rolls that they'll just end up on weird slopes on hills and stuff. So the skill part off the tee it's small, because it's a lot of luck, however your ball is going to land on the fairway and where it's going to roll. So from what I see on all of this, it's not going to be hard to hit the fairway. It's just going to be how lucky you get where it rolls from where it lands. And then as far as hitting the ball onto the greens are huge. For the most part, the greens are huge. Getting it onto the green probably won't be a problem. If they miss the green, if you watched it all today and a little bit, I think they played a little bit on TV yesterday, everything's baked out. So, I mean, even if they're not on the green, they may be putting from off the green anyway. So even if they miss the green, there's a lot of long putts that are going to be happening. So it's different from what we expect, like courses in North America to be, where it's the fairways are pretty narrow, the rough's growing up, the greens are pretty small. This is much different. It's hit it out there, hope you get lucky, get it on the green, and then be a good putter, in my opinion. So we got to think about it a little different. It's not we need a bomber off the tee because bombers are going to be successful. We need a great approach guy because you got to kind of think about it a little differently and think about who can be more strategic with their shots. And this is why Tiger has always been really good at St. Andrews, because he's creative and he can take a shot that's his feet are way below the ball and he can figure out how to get it onto the green from where he is. Where if you think about like more robotic players, and I'll say Bryson, and if we're going to get to players down the road, I think I'm going to play Bryson in my DFS lineups. But if you think about Bryson, he's more of a robot. So he's probably not used to playing on those weird surfaces where he's got the ball above his feet. He's got to figure out how to hit it. So it's a lot more about creativity than it is just about skill, in my opinion.
I got you. And
how does that?
And also probably the advantage with Tiger is the ability to come up with a plan and have it very defined before they tee off.
Yep. And I think maybe we'll get into stats later, but I think a lot of people are kind of diving into driving distance as being kind of an important thing this week. And I think that's probably true, but maybe not for the reason people think. And it's not because it's a bomb and gouge type of situation where they just kind of bombing it down there and hitting wedges. I think distance is going to give an advantage by giving more options off the tee. So, and I think that's why Tiger was good too. He had all this distance off the tee. So he wasn't hitting driver all the time, but he had the option to go down to a 2-iron or a wood and be able to put it in the fairway in a place that was safe, where shorter guys just got to hit driver and hope it gets lucky. So I think if you're longer, you just have more options to make yourself more safe than the shorter guys that just got to hit driver everywhere, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I'm going over to Spencer here before we get into DFS. What metrics are we leaning towards this week before we get into course conditions? What metrics off the top are we looking at when we're talking about the British Open or the Open Championship, and we're talking about St. Andrews Old Course? Where are we at?
Well, I agree with pretty much everything that Josh just said. Like, we have a really weird, awkward course where there's 14 par 4s. So it's not your typical par 72. Half of those holes stretch between 350 to 400 yards. That's obviously going to give you this unique skill set that's going to amplify short iron proximity from under 100 yards. But as Josh was saying, like, it's not just take a driver and bomb it as far as you can. There's a lot of different ways to play it. You're going to see guys that are going to club down. They'll have between 100 to 125 yards. It's just one of those things that each golfer is going to take it in a different way, and they're going to play it what they're most comfortable with. But in my model, and a lot of this ties together, and you're just going to keep hearing like all the same weights being attached to a category, even if it's not the number one centric part to it. So I did weighted tee to green for 13%. You usually will see me go much higher than 13% when looking at that stat, but it took on a much smaller combined emphasis since it was already weighted so many times in my model from an individual standpoint. That's weighted proximity, total driving, 3-putt percentage because of the large greens that we have here. Weighted putting for 15%. I did make an executive decision to do something that I don't typically do with putting, which was not only to have it stand alone, but also remove every surface that wasn't deemed to be slow or neutral. I don't know how much importance we can derive from 3-putt avoidance on quicker surfaces versus a venue like St. Andrews. So I combined a 50-50 mixture of strokes gained on putting slower greens and then 3-putt percentage on those same green complexes. I did strokes gained total in the win for 10%. All European golf is pretty much the same. Like I mentioned that a second ago when talking about the weather in general, but expect 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. I think the coastal gust can wreak havoc on the field out of nowhere. So it always can get higher than that. And if the wind picks up for a particularly wrong wave, all of a sudden everything goes south in that direction. I did a collection of par 4 scoring for 20%. As I said, 14 of the 18 holes are par 4s. I did take a specific breakdown of where each hole landed and then added a projected proximity total for each player to get a mixture of the par 4 locations and the expected distance there. I put a little emphasis for 7% on par 3 plus par 5 scoring That's just taking the proximity ranges. I know a lot of people don't like looking at those because they think they're inconsistent, but I think when you look at it specifically at like at a scoring range like this, and then you take the weighted proximity into the mix, it means a little bit more than it normally would. I did total driving plus short irons for 15%. And then the last bit, which is just what everything seems to keep going back to, is the weighted proximity for 20%. We can say, the projections are going to be more trouble than they're worth, but I think that I did a really good job of dissecting and minimizing the data to fit a specific setup, which would be St. Andrews here. 50% of my weight for that did come from proximity under 100 yards, with the final 50% being pulled from all other zones. So I'm looking for really good iron players. I want guys that can find fairways. Now, however they do that with distance is obviously better, because if you can carry the hazards, like this is a course where there's only so much you can do with it. Josh mentioned that they found some yardage to it, but they didn't necessarily find enough to make this a completely different course. So a guy that does, like, take a Rory McIlroy or a Dustin Johnson or even like a Bryson DeChambeau. These are guys that are going to be able to hit driver, and they're going to be able to carry all the bunkers that are into play. I think that's an advantage that can be found, but it's not the only way to do it. Guys that are accurate, that can put the ball in the fairway, they're firm, fast surfaces. You're going to create a lot of roll. You are going to have to get the right rollout so you don't end up in one of those bunkers or on like the wrong slope of a hill. But there's a lot of different ways to break down this course. And I think that's what makes it so unique, that you don't necessarily have one prototype of a player. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are distance, but I don't think that's the case this week. Like, you can break this down a million different ways.
I agree completely. Byron, I'm going to go to you now. Another big stats guy. What, in your opinion, is what you would define as the most important statistic, where if you get kind of close between a couple, three players, you're going to go with this statistic overall to kind of make that decision for you?
Yeah, I'm going to probably roll with, I'm a big iron guy. So anything with wedges involved, I think guys that are going to play well from that distance are going to be very important to distinguish between the guys that we have a toss up with. And then just recent form. I think you got to be playing some really good golf in these kind of conditions. You got to be in control of your ball. You've got to really be confident in your game. You got to be putting well. You got to be doing, like Josh said, everything. Like, there's going to be a multitude of things that you're going to have to really lean on this week, depending on the weather. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things for me too. Is I could easily modify my model once I get some good weather data points, closer to the week. So that's going to be another big thing for me. And I guess depending on if we're going to roll with the weather being difficult, then we're going to go with bogey avoidance. And then if we're going to go with weather being easy, then we want to throw those birdie or better percentages in there. We want guys that are going to be making putts. We want guys that are going to hit it close. Like Spence said, there's not a lot of par five, so I kind of diminished that a little bit. So it's going to be an interesting week. Lots to change. Looks like Andrew's having himself a fun time there. All frozen. Yeah. So Joe,
all right, the host.
What's going on?
The host is gone. the host is gone. I don't know what happened to AP. But yeah, love everything all of you guys said. Really, this is probably the tournament where I'm leaning on stats the least, especially as far as the majors go. They're very different golf courses, but St. Andrews was a huge inspiration for Augusta National. And I think that's another golf course where you kind of got it or you don't. And you pick up a lot of things through experience over the years. I think the same can be said for St. Andrews and with Links Golf. So not really, putting a lot of weight into stats. Obviously going to kind of look through, target some key things, but I also be giving a lot of weight to Open Championship experience, Links experience, major championship experience, guys that have played well. I think recent form's big this week. We've seen recent form be a big predictor of Open champions in several recent years. So that's something we can dive into as we hop into the slate. But let's go ahead and do it, guys. Let's hop into the slate. If y'all are ready, we'll get AP back here in just a second. We got Rory up at the top, obviously playing well, top tens in all three of the year's previous majors. Scotty Scheffler, the #1 player in the world. Those are the two players above 11K Let's keep it really small right there, and get your thoughts on the top two guys, Spencer. Who do you like up at the top? Just if you're picking between Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, two dominant players, where are you siding between those two guys?
Joe, let me backtrack 1 second before I give you an answer to that. I will answer that question very quickly. And the other course, and I'm not a big course comp guy, like that's not something that I put into my research a ton, but the other one that I noticed that there was some similarities to would be the Tournament of Champions. You have wide open fairways there. I see Byron with his face, and I've been working with Byron that we're trying to support each other's players. He doesn't necessarily always support Jason Day for me. So, we'll give him some Cameron Smith love right now, but it's the same concept of the stimp meter. The greens are going to be a little bit slower. I think that's a really good course to look at too, if you're trying to find some stuff there. But at the top of the board, like it's tough to pick between. Rory's number one in my model from an overall rank perspective. He's going to be popular. I'm seeing about 18% right now. I do believe Scotty Scheffler can probably provide some contrarian leverage. Just like I expect him to probably go off the board at about 10%. He's third in my model right now. He played really well at the Scottish Open. The ball striking was good. The putter and the short game went absolutely haywire for him, where he was outside the top 100 in both of those statistics. So I don't have a problem playing either one of those two. I will say, I don't think you necessarily need to start in the $10,000 range. Scheffler's probably one of my preferred leverage plays if we're just trying to break it down in that facet. But McIlroy probably has the best win equity of the group of anybody in this tournament. Scheffler's probably one of the better leverage plays. And then when you get lower than that, there's a lot of guys that I have stronger opinions on where I'm going to take like considerable stances one way or another.
Yeah. Really interesting up the top. Are you back, AP?
I don't even know. I'm muted. I'm on my phone now, and I'm looking right at my computer, and I still see Byron in his Jets hat. The computer is froze. We could drop any minute here. What I miss? What I miss?
Well, we're just diving into the top of the slate, man.
Okay.
We just we got right in there. So Spencer hit a little bit on Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. I want to get one other person's thoughts on Rory, because he is maybe the most interesting player to me. One of on the slate anyway. So Byron, give me your thoughts on Rory, man. It seems like we know the skill set's there. We know this is a great fit for him. Open with around a 63 in the 2010 Open Championship at St. Andrews, and promptly followed that with an 80. That probably says a lot about Rory and the way the weather conditions can change here. But give me your thoughts on Rory, man. It seems like there's a psychological hurdle that he's going to have to climb in order to kind of get back to winning major championships. Do you think he can do that this week?
I think he's one of the most likely to do it, if we were to take a percentage look at it. But again, we're playing DFS, and I think the percentages are what we have to look at from an ownership standpoint. And I do think that Spencer hit it on the head. Rory isn't as appealing to me as Scotty, because I believe they're pretty similar in capabilities. But when it comes to ownership, I think he's going to be the unanimous favorite at the top here, especially with Jon Rahm not playing that well right now. Going to a course that he's going to be hitting a lot of wedges, where Rahm and Rory, you could argue that Scotty is probably a little better than them in that department. I might be wrong, but I think it's going to be just a leverage play. I'm not going to beat around the bush too much other than what Spencer already said there. So obviously very capable of winning this thing, though. Going to be fun to watch.
What about you, AP? We're diving in, man. I know you a lot of times are kind of reluctant to go up here. What are you doing this week above 10K? We talked a little bit about Rory and Scotty. Let's dive into Rahm, who I think maybe we can grab some leverage on. JT, obviously a fabulous player. Morikawa is a defending champ, and then Spieth, who I think we probably all want to talk about a little bit. What are your thoughts up there, AP?
Definitely think Scheffler's the most appealing at the top. You gotta love Spieth. Was he in the playoff with Zach Johnson in 15? I can't remember if he was or not.
Missed it by a shot.
Right there. He was right there. Morikawa was zero chance in my opinion. JT's too distracted playing with Tiger Woods on all week. Here's the thing about Jon Rahm. Okay, I like Rory as well. However, Rory, in my opinion, cancellation on him would be that too many things at St. Andrews can go wrong at any moment, and that's usually not a good situation for him. John Rahm has, I don't know if he's ever won a tournament that's 15 to 20 under par with a good field. So I'm going to throw that out there. Good field tournaments that he's won is whenever he shot 8 under and won by 6 shots, right? Or shot 5 under. Very difficult with a strong field. I do like it. Historically, St. Andrews has been fairly low scoring, 12 to 20 under, and it's a strong field. I think he has 0. Spieth is appealing. I will say that. Spieth, he's cheaper than everybody else here. So $10K there. I'm not saying he's my go-to, but I mean, guy could probably scrape around and shoot 3 under every round, right? We got a level around the green play, right? Hard, bumping runs, hit it 20 yards from the green and hit, a 9-iron that lands 10 feet short of the green and rolls up there to 8 feet. We got to love that, I would think. So,
yeah.
That's my full-fledged. And I don't know if you've said anything about the 10K range yet or not, but yeah, that's Spieth's by far the most appealing to me up here.
The one thing I do like about Rory, just to throw it out there, because Andrew had a good point with Rahm not winning tournaments that are necessarily getting this high up in scoring. Rory has the opposite end of it where he doesn't win in single digits. And I would anticipate the winning score being somewhere in that 15 to 20 under range, probably. I don't think it's going to get into this massive shootout that everybody's anticipating. I think there's enough firmness to the surface. I think there's going to be enough wind that we don't have something to where it becomes a runaway. But if somebody runs away and gets that 25 under number, it's probably most likely to be Rory. And that's what's the scariest part of it. He's gained 8.26 shots with his driver and his irons on average over his last 5 tournaments. And even though things can go wrong for him, he is the number 1 player in my model in wind over a 2-year running sample size. So, it's hard to fade him. That's the one problem with Rory is we can say the ownership is bad, but all the statistics are kind of what you want to see.
Yeah, he's a scary fade. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Same can be said for Jordan Spieth, who I think gained a lot of popularity after his performance in Scotland last week. But we've seen it over the years. Links golf with Jordan Spieth, it's kind of like Augusta National and Jordan Spieth. It's going to bring out the best in him. It's where he can kind of put aside a lot of the technical issues that he might have with his golf game and kind of thrive on that creative part of his brain and part of his golf game. We've seen it numerous times, and I love him. I love his ability to handle any kind of conditions that pop up. He can go low if needed. He can play well in the wind if needed. We know he's excellent around the green. Josh, give me your thoughts above 10K. I think you like Jordan Spieth this week as well. But give me your thoughts on kind of the top end of the board, man.
Yeah, I don't think I would. It's hard to go away from any of these guys. I mean, you can make a case for all of them for different reasons, and whether it's recent form or stats, or if you're talking John Rahm and you're thinking, well, he's hasn't been that great, especially in Andrew said with the bigger tournaments and going low in the tournaments. You can think of it that way and say, well, you're going to get some leverage there. Honestly, I'm scrolling through this. You can go down to 8,400 or even less. And everybody there, for the most part, puts themselves in contention a lot of the time. So you can just go all the way down there and say, well, they all have a good chance to win this. So it's if I'm thinking about Rory and everyone's saying, well, Rory's the guy, then personally, I'm going to say, well, fine. If he wins, then I'll just take the loss. I don't care. I'm going to look at guys like Rahm. I'm going to look at who else probably is not going to be played to. I'm going to look at a guy like DJ. We're not in the 9Ks yet, but he's 9,200. I'm going to look at guys like that because they all have pretty similar skill sets. They're all elite at golf. so it could be a bounce this way, a bounce that way, and they'll just be in contention, and they do it a lot. So whether it's stats or recent form, whatever, all these guys are so good. I'm gonna lean towards guys that people are just well, they suck. I'm not going to do it. I mean, like Andrew said, especially with Rom, he hasn't won where he has to go really low in good competition, but he's in the mix a lot. So eventually a bounce or two will go his way and then he'll win. And that happens with a lot of these guys that are at the top of the board. So I'm going to lean towards guys that everybody else are not talking about, because honestly, I just think they all have a good chance to win. So I'll go with the people that are going to give me better leverage, I think.
And not that I love Rom, but it's like your point is being proven when you look at the ownership of Rom. He's sub 10%. Like nobody's going to want to play him. So you can create leverage that way if that's the way you want to go. And I think probably the better way to even ask the question, because I agree with what everybody's saying. Like you have a bunch of elite golfers who all have the potential to win the tournament. I think the better question would be like, if you could find one of the guys, who would be the fade candidate if you were forced to fade somebody? And I guess, Byron, we'll start with you. Like if you had to pick somebody, who would be your fade from the group?
It's John Rahm. Because if you go into Twitter and you type in hashtag Rahm Wedge Watch, you'll see that I've been following his wedges for a while, and this is going to be a wedge fest, and it's going to be a problem for him. He's not playing well right now, and he's particularly not very good with that club in his hand. So I was going to say, just don't play someone for a leverage play just to play a leverage play.
Yeah.
Got to pick your poison, got to choose your battles. I'm not going to go Rahm's way. I'd probably go Scotty. That's a quick fade for me. Easy. I'm out with Rahm right now.
What about you, Joe?
Well, I think naturally I go to Colin Morikawa, a guy who is the defending champion and that we've not said one word about yet. But Byron and I've talked about it. Spencer and I've talked with all you guys about it. I think we all dislike Colin Morikawa in windy conditions. I'm also not crazy about Morikawa when he's going to be forced to scramble a lot, which we might see this week. And he's also playing a different ball flight than he's played in years and years. He's playing a draw right now, which is kind of makes his performance at the U.S. Open even that much more remarkable. So the guy's a talented player. Obviously, two major championships already. Won this event last year, but he's the obvious fade candidate for me above the 10K mark, just because of kind of the way the conditions are coming together this week.
My bold take for the week is that Morikawa double hits a chip. That's my bold take for the week. Okay, I want to do something a little different here. I think I'm back. I hope y'all can hear me. Not back in the way I'm supposed to be back, but whatever. 9K range. This time I'll start with you, Byron. One guy you're playing, one guy you're fading, and why? Make it 2 minutes. 2 minutes sale. I'm
gonna be the poster child for Cam Smith. The driver is his biggest issue in his game. It has to be nullified as much as you can get at any course, kind of like Kapalua, just like Spencer said. If it's high scoring conditions, Cam's your guy. If it's low, he's also your guy. He can get up and down from a nest or a bush or a trough or anywhere you hit yourself in the Scottish acreage. A guy I'm probably not going to be playing is Will Zalatoris, because if it gets low, we've got that narrative going with Willie. If he's going to have to make a ton of birdies at these majors, he's not going to. That's typically not when he shines. He shines when you have to hit your ball to 20 feet, make those putts for birdie versus going deep. I think he's also going to be super popular this week. So I'm okay passing up on Willie Z there. I'll probably bet him for a top 20 at plus money, take that and run away. Take my chances. I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think he's going to be as rewarding for people that play him this week.
Okay. Now, Joe, Josh, Spencer, in that order, you're stuck in the elevator. Who you're playing, who you're fading, 8K range or 9K range. Go ahead.
Love Xander. I mean, I think he's probably going to be the most popular play on the board this week, right, guys? Does anybody disagree with that?
I would agree, yeah.
But I mean, I think it's with the reason. The dude's been a beast in majors. Obviously can handle links golf, has played well in opens. So I love Xander up here. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty by the book. But at the end of the day, you feel like he's going to be, fighting to win this thing, and kind of his floor is kind of a top 10, right? So love Xander. Also love Matt Fitzpatrick. Kind of feels like he's hiding in plain sight a little bit this week. He's coming off the win at the U.S. Open. That kind of makes you think, Matt Fitzpatrick ain't going to win back-to-back majors, but I'm telling you, the kid has been playing all year, and I look for him to play well this week. My fade's probably down towards the bottom of the range. Hideki, I'm not crazy about. I can see, how people would get there, and the same could be said for Hovland, a player that I love, but just can't get there this week with Vic. So that's where I'm going on that. What about you, Josh? Who's your plays and fades in the 9K?
So sadly, shows like this aren't super exciting when you agree with other people all the time. But I'm going right with Byron here. Cam Smith is my guy in that range. I think I'm gonna plug DJ for a second here because he's 9,200. Nobody's gonna play him because he's doing the live thing. Everybody thinks he sucks at golf now, and he's really good in the opens. So again, it's a leverage thing, but he's so cheap and he's so good. It seems like an obvious play to me. But Cam Smith is my guy. Just ignoring DJ. I agree. The same thing. You don't really have to worry about his driver too much or anything off the tee because the fairways are so wide. He's just going to be in the fairway, and if his irons are really good now, they used to be not so good, but now they are really good, and so he'll hit it on the green line. If he doesn't, he's a short game guy, as we know. So that feels like a lock to me. And then my fade also is Will Zalatoris, and maybe for a different reason. I think I kind of mentioned it with, I said Bryson's name before, but I think Will kind of falls into this category. He plays like a very robotic game of golf, and I think that's partly the strategic part of the way he plays through decade and stuff. I think that's very a robotic way to play sometimes. So I think he's just going to hit it out there, and he's going to be getting as lucky as everybody else is. And usually his advantage is he's putting himself on the right side of luck a lot off the tee. But at St. Andrews, it's random for everybody, including himself. Depends how the ball bounces off the fairway and stuff. So I think off the tee is going to be very random. And obviously he's an elite ball striker, but I don't know. I guess I haven't watched enough to know, but I feel like the way he plays, playing off of slopes and playing from all different types of surfaces and all this stuff, it feels like he isn't as creative as you need to be at this course. So for that reason, everybody's going to play him too because he's a majors killer recently. So I think he just doesn't seem creative enough. He's going to 3-putt probably all over the fucking place. So for those reasons, and then the elevated ownership just because of how good he's been in majors, I think that's my main candidate for a fade. But we should be careful for DJ. What do you think, Spencer? DJ, your guy?
I love DJ this week. I think he's probably the best play from, let me see here. He's probably the best play from $8,000 and up, in my opinion. So if you want to plug him into GPP contest, I think he's exactly what you want. So I like him a lot. Like his results or his stats that I have for him, no matter how you want to look at it, the high end is just phenomenal in my model. So he's first in weighted tee to green, fourth in par 4 average, second in total driving, and fourth in weighted proximity. I think Patrick Cantlay is a really intriguing play in GPP contests also, just because of the lack of major championship success that he's had. I think an open style layout is perhaps his preferred major of any of that we've gotten so far. And he's a really good pivot away from a player like Will Zalatoris, because I am agreeing with everybody else too. There's just so many players in the $9,000 range that I would prefer to play over him. And I think that anytime that you get these like baked in ownership totals that are coming from past results, and that's, not even being open championship results with Zalatoris, that's just being past majors with them. I think that's always a scary proposition. Josh said he's probably going to 3-putt a ton. I prefer him on a quicker surface than on some of these slow, drawn out, like where you got a lag putt. I think he's going to potentially put himself in a lot of positions where he has like 5 to 8 feet left when he leaves it too short or he blows it too far past. So I would be very careful of him. I'm not going to play Hovland. That's kind of a universal one. I think everybody's out on him. And then I seem to have a bad habit of going back in time and answering questions that aren't even like relevant anymore. But I just want to throw it out there. The one fade for me in the $10,000 range like that I'm definitely probably not going to have any exposure to unless he gets down to such a minimal ownership percentage would be Justin Thomas. I have real concerns with his health right now. He withdrew at the Travelers Championship a few weeks ago because of a back injury. And then we got this extremely atypical performance from him at the Scottish, where he ranked outside the top 100 in ball striking. Like, I know Josh mentioned this. I wouldn't put too much credence into some of those numbers, but when it comes on the heels of an injury and we don't really know where he's at, and it's a major championship, so obviously Thomas is going to be here and give it a try, I worry about him a little bit if he's going to be 15% owned.
The interesting thing to me on JT, his 10 over or whatever, is he shoots 10 over, and then he is at St. Andrews with Tiger like 8 hours later. It feels a little, I don't know if it's injury related or not, but it feels a little suspicious that maybe he just was trying to get a couple rounds and then going to hang out with his buddy. That's what's to me.
I prefer him for an outright bet. If that's the way that it goes with it, and maybe like you can take a chance with him at 24-1 or wherever you can find him in the market with it. But I just think for DFS, he's very risky for all those reasons.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's there's a lot to love in this range. I mean, with the Xander, Fitzpatrick, Cam Smith, even Patrick Cantlay, lot to love in the 9K range. However, this is easily the by far best spot in the last decade to play Dustin Johnson in a GPP 9,200. You mean to tell me I can get Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson still have 8,000 average left for 4 more players? DJ 9,200. I might have just threw out a little thing there. It might be my top 2 guys there, right there. Might build all my lineups with those 2. Let's just say, okay. Easiest fade ever. Also going forward, Hovland might be the only person that the only person that's a worse chipper Morkel is Hovland. Hovland shot 1 million last week. I actually thought it would be I think it's more not necessarily. I think it's more of recent form for me with Hovland. With that, so nothing new with him other than recent form. So 8K range, same thing, different order. Let's go Spencer, Josh, Joe, Byron. 2 minutes, guys, because we're gonna go forever if we don't. 2 minutes. Who we got? Who we like? Who we hate? Spencer, you go first. 8K range.
I'll keep this very short. So the only players that are a positive value in my model in the $8,000 range would be Sam Burns, Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau, Sung J M if I run it specifically for upside, and then Joaquin Niemann. I do like Niemann because I think he can flight his ball down. I think that's something that might play well here. But I would say my 2 favorite plays are Tommy Fleetwood and Tony Finau. Now, the problem is those are also the 2 highest percentage owned guys. So if I play them, I'm going to have to get unique in other areas. I think the fade for me will probably be Tyrrell Hatton at 8,700. He's going to keep gaining publicity throughout the industry. We know he's a good links player. He's won the Alfred Dunhill twice. He's been fine at the Open Championship. It's probably like the most consistent major for him. He has 2 top 6 finishes here in the last 5 times he's played an Open Championship. He did miss the cut at St. Andrews in 2015, which I wouldn't put too much into, but I don't know. I have some concerns with a lot of these guys in the $8,000 range. I'm not necessarily looking to get down here if I don't have to, but let's see where Sung J M goes, because if he's going to be like 2 or 3% owned, I do believe he's an intriguing GPP target that might blow up lineups, but you're not going to need very much exposure to get overweight to him.
Yeah, so I think I'm next here. I'm starting my lineups if I'm in the 8K range. I'm starting at the bottom and working my way up. So I love Niemann. 8K seems nuts for him for as good of a ball striker as he is, and like Spencer said, he's very good at, as if you just use your eyeballs, really good at flighting his golf ball, which is going to be important if any type of wind comes up. And it's just like he's better than a lot of the guys. Like I think he's better than Connors. I think he's better than Sung Jae. He's way better than Brooks. I think he's better than Fleetwood. I think he's better than a lot of these dudes. So I think his price alone is just nuts, and he'll probably be high owned, but it's fine. So Niemann's my guy. I'll be playing a bunch of Bryson too, because nobody would play him. And I think his length is an advantage. And for the reason I said before, it's going to give him options off the tee, not necessarily just because he can hit it far. So those are my two guys that I'm definitely in on, and I am definitely out on Brooks. And I don't know what his ownership is going to end up looking like, but I think in majors it always gets elevated because everyone thinks he's the major killer. But if, again, you just have to use the eye test here, just watch him play golf the last however many weeks or months. He's bad at golf now. For whatever reason, if it's the live thing, he just takes all this money. I don't know what it is, but it's just, he's just not good at golf anymore. So I'm way out on him. I hope his ownership is high because he has any chance.
All right, Joe, you're next. Give me your 2-minute elevator speech, bud.
I don't think Koepka's ownership will be high. I think it's worth a look in GPPs just because his Open Championship record has been so good. Top sixes in 3 of the last 4 Opens. Had a T10 at St. Andrews back in 2015. But Josh is right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a different player now. It just is interesting in GPPs because I do think that ownership will be low. I'm kind of in lockstep with Spencer here. I love Tommy Fleetwood. I love Tony Finau, both proven Open performers. Tony had a rough U.S. Open, but was playing his best golf of the year leading up to the U.S. Open. So, and Tommy Fleetwood's coming off a great performance at the Scottish Open. He always plays better outside of the U.S. Had a runner-up at the Open at Portrush a couple of years ago. So I love both those guys, but they will be the chalk. Fade for me is Bryson. I'm just probably never playing Bryson DeChambeau in an Open Championship as things stand right now. What's your thoughts in the 8Ks, Byron?
Yeah, I'm going to play Tommy Fleetwood if it's going to look like it's going to be difficult. And I'm going to fade him if it looks like we're going to have a little lack of wind coming into the tournament. I don't think he's one of those guys. He's a grinder. And I think that's why he does so well at the Opens. And then Joaquin Niemann and Corey Connors are two guys that I'm going to actually really like at the bottom of that 8K range. I just have them. I feel like Corey's probably not, I don't know, Spencer. I haven't got ownership numbers on Corey, but I feel like he might be one of the unsung heroes down here at the bottom, especially with him and Joaquin, just absolute ball strikers. And then Corey's around the green game's absolutely nullified at this venue, I think, when it comes to 3-putt avoidance. I think Corey's pretty solid with that one, and he can pull the putter out of the bag when he's missed a lot of greens. So that's going to be an interesting one there. And then Louis and Sam Burns are two guys I like at the top, especially Louis coming from Liv. He's going to be an interesting play. I think he's won here and he's lost in a playoff or something. So he's got a fantastic history and he's sneaky. We could get a lot of discounts on some Liv guys. So those are two guys I'm kind of eyeing out at the top. And Sam Burns is one of the best ranked guys in my model here in this 8K range. So like him a lot too.
I'm back on the computer. And I'm echoing here. Okay, let's see. Okay,
you got an iPad over there, AP?
We got any like reverb here? What we got? Can you hear me? We got any reverb? Yeah. We good?
We got you.
Good.
Yeah, fire. Unbelievable. Internet just started working.
I was in the middle there busy ranting about Tommy Fleetwood. The next thing I'm seeing two Andrew Putters, and I was like, what's going on here?
Okay. I think my computer's working. 8K range, guys. Finau's had a terrible year, but he's got 4 top 10s and 14 cuts made out of 19 events. Is that we just upset they don't have 11 top 10s this year, guys? Love him, but he's not my favorite guy. Joaquin Niemann at 8K. Guys, give me a break. Unfortunately, I feel like, is it going to be one of them situations where we're like, it's so obvious to play him and everybody plays him and then he plays terrible. I just have that gut feeling it's just this biggest no-brainer in major championship this year, right? And then all of a sudden, and of course, this is the square saying that. Yeah, that's a square's take on DFS, in my opinion. But Joaquin Niemann, Sungjae Im, love those two guys. Love Tony Finau. I can't believe we haven't admitted Sam Burns is by far the worst person to play in the 8K range, in my opinion. There's nothing statistically saying that we should play him this week. His trend is below sea level, number one, of recent form. Number two, we have nothing out there saying that windy pitch and putt style conditions where we have to think. There's nothing saying that this is going to be a style of course that he can play. So with that, he's definitely the easy fade for me at 8,900. Another easy fade for me, who I love playing and I've loved playing him all year and all kinds of things, is Terrell Hatton. He hits it just far enough, in my opinion, in this tournament where he's going to be looking into those bunkers. But his is a very similar game to Louis O, who won here by just hitting dead straight shots and took down Tiger head to head. Let's be honest, guys. 7K range, guys. Very interesting. And I wanted to bring this up before my computer went haywire. We got Tiger Woods at 7,500. Who knows what to do here with him? However, it's kind of intriguing at 7,500. The other majors, we've seen him up in the eights. At 7,500, guys, we might be ready to take a stab. And we're going to go back down the ladder here. Byron, Joe, Josh, Spencer. And I'll actually go first on this one. I'm probably playing Tiger at 7,500. This is his well-known number one or number two favorite golf course in the world, easily. He is the best ever. He's 1A, right above Jack Nicklaus, on planning how golf tournaments are going to go. And he's great at executing that plan, regardless of what that plan is. Tiger Woods, love him at 7,500. There's a lot of fades here. So, I mean, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but Peters is a horrible. I'm going to fade Westwood and Garcia. I'm fading both the live guys here. Garcia we thought he was different after he won at Augusta. He is way different since he joined the live tour. Byron, you're up.
Cool. So I'm going to piggyback off the Tiger Woods love and say I'm going to go for Seamus Power as one of my favorite players in this range. He's played in 3 majors, and I think he's finished inside the top 40 in all 3 of them, 2 of them being top 20s and 1 of them a top 10. I mean, the guy is a baller. He's playing in Europe now. This golf course suits his game to a goddamn tee. He's right underneath Tiger Woods. Everyone's going to be clicking Tiger Woods with putters there. I'm going to click Seamus. Then at the top, Max Homa and Adam Scott, 2 guys I'm a big fan of at the top of the board here. Adam Scott's around the green game, nullified again with the putter. You can hit the broomstick from anywhere if you can, get it swinging far enough. I don't know how that works from far away, but Adam Scott's game suits this golf course quite nicely, I believe. And then towards the bottom of the range, I'm a big fan of Keegan Bradley, as always. I don't know why. I don't know if his aim point express is going to work on these greens because that's what he's kind of figured out. But he had he's lost the putter a little bit lately, but this guy's ball striking is just showing up again now. So he's worked on the putter. The ball striking went away. Now the ball striking's back. The putter's gone. If we get those 2 together, this guy is just a machine. I've got him as one of my favorite golfers, with top ranked golfers at the bottom of this range. And then Russell Henley as well. He's just going to plot his way along this golf course. He's tidy around the greens. He's just under the radar. He's just absolutely under the radar here. And I think he's going to be a great player this week. So he's safe. He makes a lot of birdies. It's good stuff.
Joe, where you at, buddy?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of viable plays in the 7K range. I think there's a lot of directions you could go. A lot of these guys that you could see playing well this week. Max Homa kind of sticks out. Just due to the sub 8K price tag with just how well he's played overall this year. That win at the Wells Fargo was in really rough conditions. He played well in Scotland last week and made the cut in his Open Championship debut last year. So I think there's a lot to like with Max. I'm sure, Byron mentioned several players. Josh and Spencer will as well. So I'm going to toss out a guy that's maybe kind of a dark horse down at the bottom of the salary scale. That's Jordan Smith. He's an Englishman, and this dude is absolutely balling out on the DP World Tour. 7 straight top 25 finishes in his last 7 starts. Played well in Scotland last year, has a lot of St. Andrews experience from the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. He's played 6 rounds in that event on St. Andrews. Never had a round worse than even par. So that's my dark horse in the 7K range this week is Jordan Smith down at the bottom of the 7K range.
Josh, where you at on that, bud?
So we got a problem again here. I just have to agree with people here again. I'm definitely in on Tiger. He made 2 cuts and he made the cut at Augusta. He made his next cut. I mean, he's gonna make the cuts at majors. Whether he contends this week or not, I don't know. But at 7,500, I mean, some of these dudes, you're questioning whether they're going to make the cut or not. I'm not really questioning whether Tiger's going to make the cut or not. He's going to make the cut. So you can just guarantee that. So I'm in on Tiger for sure. And then my next favorite play is also Seamus Power. I don't remember who tweeted it. Somebody tweeted some stat about all these dudes that had been I think it was a certain amount under par through the last like 4 or 5 majors. And there's all these upper echelon dudes. You got the Rory, you got Scotty, you got JT, you got all these dudes. And then mixed in the middle there is Seamus Power. He's just under par with all these elite dudes. And it's like he's sitting here at 7,400. So that seems obvious to me. And I agree him playing overseas is helpful as well. And then sadly, I also have to agree with Joe. My one guy that I thought was going to be a dark horse maybe isn't a dark horse anymore. Jordan Smith is my guy at the lower range of the 7,000s that I'm going heavy on. I pay attention pretty closely to the DP World Tour, the Euro Tour, whatever you want to call it. And he's for years now, actually, it's not even this year, the last 2, 3, 4 years, he's been really good on the DP World Tour. A lot of the tournaments overseas are closer to link style than they are to like Parklands like they are in the US. So I think getting him in really good form on a link style course is really good. So I'm sadly I don't have anything unique here. I'm going with Tiger, I'm going with Seamus, and I'm going with Jordan Smith.
All right.
I'll do things a little bit differently when I run through mine, just to throw out a bunch of names and just to keep it short so we don't go into like an in-depth breakdown of every single player. But 2 of the ways that I run my model is the first one, I look at their DK price versus the overall rank. And then I also look at the projected ownership versus the rank. So these are guys in the $7,000 range that are a positive value in both of those 2 ways for me. And ownership's going to change. It's Monday night. Like I wouldn't get too stuck to this group. A guy like Mark Leishman might go from 4% up to 7%. And all of a sudden he gets removed from the list very easily. But Adam Scott at 7,700 is a positive value in both. Mark Leishman, 7,700. Webb Simpson, 7,600. Tiger Woods at 7,500 is probably one of the better values on the board. I do want to get into him a little bit more in a second when I run through these. Paul Casey, 7,500. I think we'll get a reduction because of the live thing with him. Scrolling down, I disagree with Andrews. I like Thomas Peters this week. I think he works very well for a bunch of different game types if he's going to be less than 5%. I like Russell Henley. Gary Woodland, Ian Poulter, probably a little bit on the same live thing. He's going to be about 1% owned if you're trying to get unique. I do like Cameron Tringali also. I know like his lack of win equity always frustrates people. And we saw that last week come to fruition very quickly. But I want to talk about Tiger Woods because I never play Tiger. Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you the last time I've played him. But when you look at his 2-year running model, and then you compare it to just specifically for this course, so weighted tee to green, my 2-year model believes he's the 76th ranked player in this field. For this specific course, he's 6th. So it's a 70 spot jump there. We see on weighted putting that he's 56, and that's looking at slower greens. But from a 2-year sample size, he's 112th there. So we obviously it's not exactly where we want it to be, but it is an improvement. The par 4 scoring places him inside the top 20. The par 3 and par 5 scoring are 2 problems that he has. And this is one of the reasons I believe Tiger will, I mean, you got to be careful when you put this into existence. Tiger will struggle to win any true par 72 tests moving forward where there are 4 par 5s. I think this is the perfect setup for him. It's a lot of short par 4s where he can find success on them. I don't think he's going to be distance, hampered in any sort of way with that. And then just looking at like total driving plus short irons, he's 11th. My 2-year running model has him 2nd in weighted proximity. So I think there's a lot to like about Tiger. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up providing like a top 20, 25 finish or even a little bit better. And my model kind of seems to be looking that way. Like he's 17th overall, and that was with me having to reduce some of his stats to move him outside of the top 10.
I mean, I agree. This actually couldn't be a better situation to play Tiger, and it's almost scary to me. Same thing with Needham. Tiger's best asset is his brain, and he will use it to his advantage, in my opinion. So, I don't want to talk about him too much because then,
I feel like we talked a lot about Tiger. What about another vet down there, guys? Justin Rose, 7,400. He's played well in the majors this year.
Sure.
We know his track record in Open Championships. Almost shot 59 up in Canada. So if we're talking about vets, and vets seem to kind of have their sunset moments in Open Championships. I think certainly at St. Andrews. I think you can give Justin Rose a really serious look there at 74, kind of as a pivot off Tiger.
It comes down to ownership for me. Like it's the same thing with Seamus, like Seamus, Homa, Rose. The reason why those three guys were not mentioned was just because, I mean, we're looking at 12% from Seamus, 12.5% from Rose, and then Homa's more in that like 17.5% range. But, let's see where Rose moves to. If he's going to be sub 10%, I certainly think that he's somebody that you should consider.
Where have you got Tiger right now, Spencer? Ownership wise?
I'm sure it's going to be higher than this. There's a lot of Tiger buzz that's entering the market right now. I see 4.8%. I assume that'll boost its way up as the week goes on.
That 15%, I think. But the only reason I say that is because I feel like you're going to put most lineups you're going to have at least 2 7K guys in them statistically, and Tiger just makes a ton of sense right there at 75. I mean, if we're going like around that, I mean, Billy Horschel was the most unlockable human being on the PGA Tour until he had the banger 2-minute press conference the other day, and Paul Casey hasn't played a tournament in 4 months. So,
yeah.
Answer, is he hurt? Who knows? Is Simpson hurt? Who really knows? I mean, I can see Seaman. I can see Power. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, I think Westwood.
I'm not ready to give up on Bobby Mack yet. I like a bounce babe.
Oh.
Didn't play well last week, but I like Robert McIntyre this week a lot.
Yeah.
Tiger's ownership is going to be interesting because I think at the Masters he was where obviously everybody knows that's Tiger's shit. He was like 8.9% or something like that, which is pretty low. And then the last major he played, he was like 4%. But now we're getting him at 7,500 and not 8,500. So it'll be interesting whether people are going to plug him in just because the price is good, or if they'll leave it alone because they're scared of his leg. It's going to be a very interesting number. Whatever the number is, it'll be very interesting.
Just very quickly, I mean, he's going to be very popular. Like it's another European guy. Anybody have thoughts on Ryan Fox if he's around 8%, let's say?
Yeah, I like Ryan Fox. He's played well in opens. He was really trendy last week, which I get because of the form, but he had never played well at that golf course, really.
Yeah.
So I actually like him more this week than I did last week, and obviously the price is much better.
I feel like we could say this any week, but with the unknown of wind, unknown of if you're going to get a good draw, bad draw, would you be surprised if 4 guys in the 7K range is in the top 10? Because I wouldn't at all.
No, and I think you're going to probably have to find those guys if you want to take down these millionaire makers in these contests like this.
You're dang right. You're dang right. But we aren't playing the guy that's got 2 back-to-back top 10s, Taylor Gooch, right? I mean, I don't like him. I don't like him with this setup.
I'm fine putting him into a lineup. I mean, he's not going to be super popular. He's going to be around 5% owned. He has some negative flaws to his game when you try to break this down. Like, I don't necessarily trust him off the tee. And I think like the current form is trending in the wrong direction off the tee. But Josh said this earlier. I don't know how much weight I'm actually putting into off the tee. I think you can only look at it so much. So there are things to like about him. I like the short game. I like the approach numbers. The weighted putting looks good. I know there's only 2 par 5s, but he is a top 10 player in this field in par 5 scoring if he can sneak out some birdies on those holes. So I don't have a problem with him.
All right, guys, we're getting kind of long in the 7K range, but it's very important for this week, like we already said. You're going to find the diamond in the rough there. 6K range, we'll go back up the board here. Spencer, Josh, Joe, Byron in that order. Who you like, who you fading? And who you like, who you fading in the 6K range? And I feel like there's probably a lot to say here as well, honestly. Even though it's kind of weak, I still think there's a lot to say.
I can't believe I'm actually going to go on a show and say this right now. I like Phil Mickelson at 6,600. This is the kind of course that you would expect him to find success. We know, I mean, he has a top 20 the last time he played it. All the way to tee to green numbers improved for him when I look at it in that direction. The weighted putting, he's number one in the field now. You could say maybe I'm running like the data a little bit too long, but even 2 years ago, Phil Mickelson wasn't some spring chicken at that point. So we're still looking at an aging veteran there. The par 4 scoring looks really nice. And if we look at the weighted proximity, like specifically from within 100 yards, top 20 in my model over the last 2 years. So I probably will play Mickelson. He's less than 1% owned right now. I think that's the way you can get very unique. And for whatever reason, and he seems to burn me every single week, my model likes Stuart Sink at 6,800. I think Byron pointed this out. I forget what tournament it was. He made like 107 birdies and missed the cut that week. So you have some of that that's going to come into play, but it's another thing like with Mickelson, the collection of par 4s look really good. A lot of the weighted proximity numbers take a big boost. The 3-putt percentage is fine. And it's just one of those courses that like the weighted proximity is within the top 10 for me. And like, that's one of the things you're looking for. And Sink is longer than anybody anticipates him being. So I don't mind playing Sink if he's going to be sub 5% owned. Those would probably be the two guys right now that are most catching my attention, but like you have players, just rattle off a couple, try to find people that have like positive in everything. I guess there's not that many. Mackenzie Hughes, Ju Young Kim, Guido Migliozzi, Garrick Higo. There's very far and few between to find players here, but there are some that you can definitely fit into lineups.
Josh, what do you think? 6K range.
I got two names. I'm fading the whole range pretty much, other than two names. I might take a stab at a third. I'm going with Kisner at 6,900 for sure. And we've been talking a little bit about distance off the tee and that kind of being like an important thing. But distance is important, as I have said, because of the options it gives you. I'm not sure I'm concerned with that with him because I think he's a pretty creative golfer. So I think he'll figure out how to get the ball around the golf course. And then as we know about Kisner, he's just a short game wizard. Basically, he'll get it up and down in it from everywhere, whether he's got a putter to chip it or whatever he has to do. So I haven't seen any type of ownership numbers. I don't know a whole lot about any of that, but I think people will just kind of pass on him because people are going to look at driving distance specifically, and also his recent form. I'm just going to pull it up right now. He's got 5 or 6 missed cuts in a row other than the Travelers. So I think people are going to pass on him. I think everybody's scared, but I think just as a short game putting guy, I think that's going to be the guy in the top of the 6K range. If I were to pass on him, Chris Kirk's going to be my next guy. He's statistically, he just kind of checks a whole bunch of boxes. No matter what tournament it is, to be honest with you. So, I mean, he hits the ball pretty good off the tee. He's really good on approach. Whether he can putt it or not, who knows? But, I mean, he had like 2 bad tournaments, and otherwise he's been pretty solid, and he's sitting in the 6,800 range. I think he's way better than I can go up to like 7,400. I think he's better than a lot of those dudes. So I'm going to go with Chris Kirk. He'll be my lock in like the 6Ks. So Kirk, Kisner, and then if I got to get a third, going a little lower. I think I'm going to go with Horsfield, Sam Horsfield. He's always pretty good overseas for the last however many years. Again, I follow DP World Tour, Euro Tour pretty closely, always pretty good. His price on the DP World Tour he usually is like 10K and he's 6,700 now. So it just kind of feels like he's being pretty devalued here. Maybe it's a live tour thing. But he won like 2 months ago. So I just think he's a lot like Kirk. I think he's better than his prices. So those are my three guys. Otherwise, I'm just kind of going to stay away from the 6K range. I'm not super excited about it.
Let me ask you this really quickly, Josh. Is there an ownership percentage or roughly an ownership percentage on Chris Kirk where you would not play him?
Is he going to be high owned, do you think?
I'm seeing 8.9%, which is 21st overall. I believe I'm scrolling through it very quickly. I think he's the highest person in the 6,000 range by quite a bit.
I mean, it seems like he probably should be.
Probably so.
I mean,
yeah.
You and I are, and we're probably all looking at the same stats. I mean, the stats tell the story here. He's way better than 6,800. So I don't think an ownership percentage will steer me away from him. I think I'll just go up farther and pick somebody else that's going to be less owned, and then I'll change the leverage around that way. It's hard for me to get away from him just because of how good he's been.
That's fair.
What do you think, Joe? 6K, you flirting?
I'm still trying to fix my chair back. I almost fell out of it when Spencer started talking about Phil Mickelson.
The guy can't even face his own friends and go to dinner, guys. That's where we're at with Phil Mickelson. Cannot even face his own friends.
I'm here for the Phil takes. I love it. Spencer's always dropping some gems, so I'm throwing Phil in a roster just for Spencer. I think the top of the 6K range is pretty interesting. Probably a little better than we're giving it credit for, just because the 7K range is so deep. There's so many options up there that I don't think you have to go down here this week. Keith Mitchell's having a really sneaky great year this year. I know his open track record isn't great, but he's grading out second in scrambling over the last 24 rounds in this field. And I think he's just in good form. So I wouldn't mind taking a stab there with Keith Mitchell. Kurt Kitayama is another player that's very familiar with links golf. We saw him play well in Scotland last week. Played his way into this event. So I like Kitayama. He played well down at the Honda earlier in the year, kind of in tough conditions. Lucas Herbert's a guy I would probably like a little more if the weather were going to be bad, because he leans on his short game. I don't know that that's going to be the case as of the way the weather looks right now. Josh mentioned Kevin Kisner and Chris Kirk, both guys I really do like, though I think they'll be pretty popular down here. I think you could maybe look at a Brian Harmon as a pivot. He's a guy that's a veteran, and I don't think Lynn's going to be a super kind of hurting factor this week. So I think you can look at Harmon. As far as fades, I don't know that ownership's getting anywhere where you have to fade anybody down here in the 6K range, but I'll definitely be playing some guys in the upper sixes. I don't know that I'll be going too far down the board, past Stuart Sink. Spencer mentioned Byron. I talk about him a lot. Josh mentioned Sam Horsfield. I think he's definitely playable. Wyndham Clark there at 66 is kind of interesting to me. And we got Thomas the Train down there at 65. If you want to try to maybe ride the hot hand with him. Basically, I think there are GPP options down here, and I will be going down here a little bit. I think you can dip into the sixes if you want to take that direction this week. What do you think, Byron? Who you liking down here besides Stuart Sink?
Yeah, I'll skip Stewie. Let's jump to Chris Kirk quickly. I think if you decide that he's actually worth the $7,500, $8,000 price tag, would you really be that worried about paying 10% ownership for him? That's my quick take on Chris Kirk, because I'm a big fan of him. I think he's mispriced. Then you get Dean Burmester, who's going to also pretty much go under the radar. I'm kind of targeting a few South African guys in this range, because I think Ernie Els is another guy that's also played some good links golf stuff. He's $6,200. I named my dog after him. Love to see that. Zach Johnson is the type of guy that definitely plays well on courses that he's sticky when it comes to course history. I think hasn't he played well here before too? I think he's a really good open player. He's got that low piercing ball flight, very tidy around the greens, 3-putt avoidance, stunning stuff from Zach Johnson there. And then another guy I'm kind of really liking is Emiliano Grillo. We played really good stuff at the John Deere Classic, and his short game is one of his only major deficiencies in his game. And then when you go to a links golf course, unless you're in a bunker, you typically can catch yourself around the greens putting. So I think if you can take care of that, Grillo's in some good form. We like to see that from guys. And then Brandon Wu is sneakily striking the ball really well for a $6,100 guy around the greens as well. Again, nullified. I mean, he made it into this tournament because of last week's event. So love to see Brandon Wu there. Got some really good short-term form. His ball striking over the last 24 rounds also very impressive. So $6,100, it can make you do all sorts of freaky stuff up at the top there, especially if you go Brandon Ernie else kind of combo. I mean, that'll get all sorts of, no one's going to do that. So big fan of those guys, Wyndham Clark as well. So wrap those up for you.
Yeah, I think down here in the 6K range, if you expect everybody to be a fade and then you find people you like, that's probably the way you need to head. For me, there's not one person I'm particularly fading. I think going into the 6K range, like I said, you're fading all of them. So if you find somebody you like. So I would say that someone I like, obviously, Stuart Sink, y'all have talked about him, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe I'm going to throw in, if you don't have low ownership, has not played well at all. Another one of your guys, Garrick Higo, if he gets the putter going at all. I think we're splashing down here anyway, guys, because it's so such a good rest of the pricing is so soft. So it's just hard, even though there's really a lot of talent down here, it's hard to find anybody out. So we're going to do something a little different here at the end. We normally do where's your heart at and then the long shot. So we're going to do who we think's going to win, the long shot, and we're also going to do the most important player for you for the weekend that you see right now. We're going to go down Byron, Joe, Josh, Spencer, who you think's going to win, your long shot for the week, and who you think's the most important person for you for the weekend. Go ahead, guys.
I think Patrick Cantley is going to win. I think it's a very aggressive play. I think he's got it in him. I think he's shown he's got that form. It's a major in a different country. It's not necessarily a major. Let's just call it that. Then who's going to be super important for me is going to be Seamus Power. I think I'm going to have half my lineups built around Seamus Power. I don't think he deserves to be anywhere near $7,400. Don't give a crap what his ownership's going to be. What was the other one? Who's a fade or a dart, or what was the third one? I'm acting like
long
a
shot.
I think.
What?
Long shot.
Oh, a long shot.
Yeah.
A long shot would be, let's go with Emiliano Grillo. I think I like him down there a lot in the $6,700 range. That's
who I think is going to win. Right now, I'm jostling back and forth between Jordan Spieth and Xander Schauffele. I feel like both those guys are going to be there and play well. They're both going to be popular. But that's who I think is going to win. One of those two guys. Most important for me is probably a lot's going to probably hinge on that mid 8K range for me, like that Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau range. Is probably going to be pretty important. I'm going to be starting a lot of bills right there. They'll kind of be building blocks for me this week, and I'll try to get contrarian in other spots, building off those guys. And kind of a long shot dark horse, touched on him already. I'll say Jordan Smith down there at the bottom of the 7K range for me.
I'm going. I think Cam Smith is going to win. I think Cam Smith's my guy there. I think maybe the most important guy to me, whether I win money or don't win money on DraftKings, is going to be Dustin Johnson. And actually that probably just depends on what his ownership's going to be. So if it's going to be low, I'm going to be playing him a lot anyway, because I think he's a great play. But if ownership's low and he does well, I will do well. And if it's high and whatever, so I think he's going to be important for me personally. And then a dark horse long shot. I would love to use Jordan Smith, but I can't, because I'm not I've agreed with people way too much on this show already. I think I'm gonna go Siwoo Kim. Dark horse.
I always like Siwoo Kim.
And I just want to jump in quickly as well. I was banned from saying Cam Smith is a hard play on this podcast, so he's obviously going to win. But I've been banned from saying that. So,
all right, guys. I guess I will wrap us up. I mean, it's so boring to come on here and say Rory's going to win the tournament. He's 9-1. Like, obviously, he's the favorite to win. Let me give somebody else that's not him. I go between Patrick Cantlay or Dustin Johnson, I guess, to just create a different thing so I don't have all the same answers across the board, even though this is taking what Byron just said. I will take Patrick Cantlay to win. I will say DJ will be the most important to me. My long shots, I'll say Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson both come in the top 40 this week. And then just to throw it out there, I have not been banned from saying this. My heart is with Jason Day. I can't believe he's not in this tournament.
Sucks, man.
Yeah.
Can't believe he's not in here.
Very sad.
Shocker.
Guys, let me ask you. We're already overtime anyway, so we can do what we want. But I love Byron and Spencer. I love you both. But what's the deal with Patrick Cantlay? I can't wrap my head around Patrick Cantlay, man. I cannot get my finger on that dude. So tell me, before we kind of get out of here, tell me what you guys are seeing in Cantlay. I mean, I know he's a great player, but the struggles in majors are well documented. Some final round struggles recently. Set me straight on Cantlay.
You want to start, Byron, and then I'll
Sure.
give my answer?
yeah, I think the whole reason I like him that much is because of exactly what you said, Joe.
Yes.
Is the fact that he's
Just
got this major stigma, pun
yeah.
included, pun intended. And he's mentioned that he's aware of the situation, and all it takes is just additional reps that he believes is, the case. And I think what can overcome a lack of confidence in these situations is good form. And he's definitely been showing that this year. So at some point, we're going to definitely reap the benefits of playing a Patrick Cantlay in a major when he wins the damn thing, or at least finishes inside the top 5 for once, like he should be. This guy's got every shot in the game. He's got length, he's got around the green ability, he's clutch. When he played up against Bryson and made every putt he needed to. I just think he's great in the wind. He played well last week. Everything's just like teeing it up for him. And with that said, segue to Tee Off Sports.
Yeah, it's exactly my thought process with it. When you can get these stigmas attached to guys, whether that be Dustin Johnson is now on the LIV Tour, so nobody wants to play him. Patrick Cantlay has this thing in the industry that he can't close. He's not good in major championships. You're telling me that I can get these guys at sub 10% ownership, where I think they have just as much upside to win a tournament as, a Cam Smith. I think they're all very close. Like, I don't have a problem with playing Cam Smith. I think that he's certainly somebody that can win the tournament, but if you're going to tell me Cam Smith is like 17% owned, and this is getting more technical onto like the DFS side of the equation versus just who's going to win the tournament. But like, these are guys that are all very equal to me. And if I can get half the ownership, that's kind of the mentality I'm taking. And Cantlay's really good in the win. I've always thought that an Open Championship would be the best suited tournament for him if he was going to win a major. And the form that he's bringing into the week is really good. Like, he might be having bad Sunday performances, but 4th at the Scottish Open, the Travelers at 13th place, like, he could have won that tournament. Top 15 at the US Open. So it's not like the results are terrible across the board. And then the 3rd at the Memorial. And I think he's a golfer that can play difficult courses and easy courses relatively well in both facets, depending on how it goes. So I like him a lot for GPPs. Like, Cantlay and Dustin are going to definitely be the two guys that make or break my week.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great player. I'm definitely not disagreeing with you guys there. I think, I guess my thoughts are I think he'll be a little more popular than you guys think. He seems like one of those guys that every major that rolls around, everybody thinks he's going to kind of be the contrarian play, but the ownership's there, like mid-teens. So,
he's going to gain steam here at the end, and
Yeah.
I agree with them. It's a total confidence deal. I think, for 5 years we've given Bagels a hard time about Xander, and all of a sudden he breaks through and he wins another one. So, I think it's a confidence thing. Closing down the stretch obviously is an issue.
Cantlay's always the quote unquote wise guy when you look at sharp markets, and it never really comes to fruition with it in these tournaments. But as Byron said, one of these times it's going to, and I think this is probably the best chance he has of the entire group of them.
Now, several of y'all said close this out. I still haven't given my plays yet, guys. Jordan Spieth wins this tournament, guys. I mean, this is
Getting back to our roots.
I was penciling in my lineup, and I was like, Jordan, DJ, Tiger. This is the turn. This is like a turn lineup price point. Jordan Spieth, my most important player for me, is going to be Sanjay M, because I will choose him over several guys that are going to be in a price point that I need. If you're talking FanDuel or DraftKings, so I'm choosing him over a few guys, and we're not really sure if he's healthy. So that is a concern for me. So he's by far the most important. My long shot, Tiger Woods, y'all. Tiger Woods plays well this week. I see it. Scraping it, planning it out. I mean, the one I will say this: the little shot on the bridge with Jack, and he's standing on his foot. I'm sitting there thinking, like, he's doing that because he can't feel that foot. That's what I was thinking in my brain. So I don't know if you saw the shot where he literally bunted it off the tee on 18 and drove it on the back fringe. That's how hard the ground is. And I don't know, I kind of analyzed the swing a little bit. He had 100% of his weight, Byron. I don't know if you noticed this, on his left foot. Like, not 75%, which is where it probably should be, 100% of the weight. Like, no weight was pushing off with his right. It almost looks like an amputee out there hitting. And that's not a shot at him at all. I'm just saying that's what it looks like. And if he can get around, I think the firm conditions are going to be a huge plus for him. Tiger Woods, y'all. That's all I got.
I love it.
Guys, I appreciate everything tonight. Through the technical difficulties, my birthday situation at home that we're not going to talk about. And I appreciate everything y'all do for Rotoballer.com. Rotoballer.com, appreciate everything you do for the turn. Everybody, it's the Open Championship. We love this. Is one of the most important golf courses, and we talk about history. We're talking about everybody knows the holes. It should be great to watch, a great field. Y'all listen to the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast, brought to you by Rotoballer.com.